I'll be working full range. I'll be using a sofa, or you could always have, whether it's a desk or something solid, a table. Even if you wanted to use a wall for balance, that's fine. I'm also going to be using a Pilates ball, right? But you don't need this specifically if you have a rolled up towel or a blanket that you want to utilize, that's fine. I also have with me a set of 5-pound weights. Now, again, if you don't have 5-pound weights, you can do those liter bottle waters. One of my friends uses wine bottles, so yeah, there's lots of options. So let's get started. And we're gonna start lying down, and I'm gonna take one of my weights, or if you'd rather use the Pilates ball, if you don't want to use too much weight, that's absolutely fine. My feet are on the floor. I'm pressing through the instep, so I want to think that my inner thighs are reaching forward as my outer thighs pull back, and that's going to give me a little glute activation and some lower belly activation as well, just before we get started, right? So we're creating that muscular response before we start moving. I have the weight in my left hand. I'll be mirroring yours, so I'm going to take my left hand down. I'm going to inhale, lift up, and then sweep it around. Right hand comes down, and then lift up and thread it through. And again, as I'm going, I want the knees to stay exactly where they are. I'm moving extremely slow so that I can feel everything from start to finish. There's no gaps, there's no stuttering. The inner thigh is reaching forward, the foot lands, the pelvis doesn't move. Right? I like to keep my head lifted rather than lowered down all the way, just to give my abdominals a constant feedback, right? Constant work. But if you wanted to release your head all the way down and take a beat, right, that's absolutely fine. It's just what feels best for one versus the other. Good. And so again, as I come back, right, the challenge here is as I come back, I pull my ribs in as I lower the torso down. So I'm not letting my ribs puff up. Right? Think of it like a teeter-totter. The chest lifts, but the lower ribs release down. So go one more time either side. So there we are. And next. Good. And we're gonna come here. You can have your heels together or your knees together, depending on what doesn't exacerbate the hip flexors. And I'll show you from the side. I'm here. I'm gonna lower down. I'm gonna punch, come through, lower down, punch, come through. Good. So lower down, punch. And I'm punching from my core, so I'm not punching from my shoulder, I'm not punching from my arm. I'm pulling in. Let's go 2 more. Lower down, punch up, thread, lower down, punch up, thread. Last time, either side, lower down, punch up, thread, lower down, punch up, and thread. Lengthen your legs long, reach your arms up, inhale, exhale, fold forward. Inner heels reach forward, chest reaches long, so that you're not kind of rounding and becoming a little troll person, but you're really lifting out. And let's take this to stand. So you don't need your weights right now. Instead, we're gonna go into some basic extension of the thigh at the hip, and work into our upper glutes. So I wanna hold on to the lower belly connection I just created. So, and this is where I'm gonna be in front of my sofa. So I have my feet parallel, not outer hips distance apart. And now I wanna utilize the entire band of abdominal tissue, right? Stomach or abdominal muscle tissue. And now one hand, I'm gonna take to my left foot or my left upper glute. I'm gonna slide my leg back until that glute presses against my hand, right? So I'm working from there. Now gently bend into my standing leg. Remember, I bend with my thighs pulling into my hip. And I'm gonna keep that lift. So I'm gonna keep it through my glute. I'm gonna lower it down. Hands come to my sofa. And if you see, right, my leg is in line with my shoulders, right? So I'm not here, right? I don't wanna be really in line. And then from my glute, I'm gonna pulse. And I want to feel that this is coming from the hamstring and the upper glute. My ribs are in. I'm trying not to let my abdomen spill out. And if this was, right now, if your standing leg, if it's your right leg is your standing leg, right, then you're going to press down and almost like you're going to go clockwise, right? So press down and rotate towards the pinky toe. Like if you had something underneath you, you could scrunch it up. Good. And your head is long. You want to work this from the glute, from the glute. And it's annoying to do this. I find it's really hard because, yeah, it's easy to hold and be really specific with the movements, but it can get irritating, right? So you have to keep insisting that you're lifting the leg and you're not dropping, right? Because gravity is going to drop that leg already for you. You're lifting. All right, let's go 10 more. Say we're here for about, I'd say just under a minute. The head is forward. Soft bend the knee. I'm pushing my foot down a little harder into the floor every time I lift my extended leg. Let's go 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring the knee in and press the leg out. So I've opened my hips slightly. If you see, I'm bringing my knee in. My heel's not down. It's not like this. I want to keep it like I'm gliding on a table. So pull in, press out. Notice where your standing knee is facing. Don't let that knee rotate in or out. Good. Couple more. Let's say we'll do 10 on this one. So these are slower. They're bigger range, so we do less of them. Your heel is moving from your sits bone. So it's like you're pulling a lever, pressing the lever. Last 2. Right, pull with resistance, press with resistance. Last 1, pull and press. Rotate to center. Take it down. Send your feet a little wider. I'll show you this way. A little wider, slight internal rotation. I take it down and squeeze up and press up. Down, squeeze and press. Down and press. And again, I want to push my feet into the floor. So as I come up, right, it's like I'm pushing down to come up. Like when you drop a ball and the weight that the ball has, right, is going to be tantamount to its buoyancy to come back up. 2 more. Good. Last one. All right, so then there. So my right leg was on the floor. My left leg was one that was doing the extension work. I'm gonna turn. I'm gonna take my right foot on top. So remember, this was the bottom leg, this was the standing leg down. Now it's my floating leg. And I'm gonna come down, again, I'm gonna sit on my couch. Sit on the couch, ooh. And this is where we go for a broke. Lift up. Ooh. So, and you guys keep going. I'm just gonna move this to my ottoman because it's easier. Because it's a little taller and it doesn't have, you know, the saggy cushions. So I'm not kind of sinking in like this Al Bundy position. Right, so I come down and now, right, I've got my foot, it's pressing on my foot. So it's not like I'm doing this with one leg. I'm just doing this with a little more pontificated. 1 and 2, right? And if it makes you feel better to have weights, the weights in your hand coming forward as you sit and lift will help counterbalance the weight, the amount of weight going back. So, hence my arm movements here. Good. 2 more. And this is really good. I think this is also very helpful when you're working in balance, right? Because you have the proprioception of your foot on top of your foot. But you're really just using the strength of one leg. Okay, release that. Release that. Let's take it into our plank pose. And so you'll see my left leg. I'm gonna reach it back. I'm gonna cross my right ankle over my left. It says cross it, right? And from here, I'm gonna come forward and plank back. Ripple forward and pike back. A couple more. And breathe. reaching my heel back as I reach my collarbones forward. Pike back. Last time, reach. And pike back. This time, I come into a plank, lift my right leg up, cross it over and pike. Lift my right leg up and pike it over. Yeah. So that right leg comes out to the side. I'm still using the upper glute. And back, 2 more. Lift, reach, come forward. And back, last 1. I'm gonna hold up here, lift, and then pull my knee in and press up. Knee in and press up. 4 more. In, press up. Nothing else moves. 3, press up. Last 2, press. Last 1, and press. Both feet down, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, send the hips side to side. Maybe you want to jiggle it out. And then come back onto your knees. Press back, child's pose. And then here we go, second set. We'll start from the abs again. So here we have our weight. I'm gonna start in the opposite hand. So I'm starting my right hand. We'll do the same thing over and over, right? So I'm gonna come down. And then from there, I'm gonna sweep underneath the left leg. Down. And sweep underneath the right. Lowering down. And again, think of your inner thighs as reaching or tractioning forward. And it'll just give you like a little sense of pull through the lower belly, which is not nice elongation of muscle tissue as it works, right? So it's not a contraction. Well, it is, it's an eccentric contraction. So I'm not losing, it's not bulging. We're almost there. We got 1 more either side, right? So 1 more from the right to the left. And 1 more from the left to the right. From here, I'm gonna keep my feet down this time. I'm gonna come down. I'm gonna come down all the way. And then chest press with my arm. I'm gonna punch. Sweep it around. Use your low belly like you're throwing up your bladder. Take it down. And punch. Sweep it around. And here we go. We take it down. All the way down. Reset. Punch. Sweep it around. Take it down. And punch. We'll go 1 more time total, or 1 more time either side. So 2 times total. Press it down. Remember, this doesn't have to be a weight. It can be anything. It could actually just be the arm, right? It doesn't have to be a weight specifically. It can just be the weight of your arm. Good. Release that weight down. We're gonna come up, we're gonna do the second set. So I'll do it this way so I can face you guys. So again here, right, I'm gonna keep that engagement from the core. Same thing. Now my standing leg is depositing into the floor. I feel like a lot of that connection of the bones of the feet pressing down. That pressing down is rebounding on my leg. So belly's in. I'm gonna feel tone here. Take my hand to my upper glute. Just slide that leg back until I feel that muscle fill the palm print. And then I'm gonna lift, soften my standing knee. And I come up. I want to make sure that my head and my heel are at the same plane. My belly's in. And then I lift. And it's small. And I'm trying to work over extremely straight leg. I'm reaching. And it's almost like I'm very visual with this stuff. So for me, it feels like 2 chopsticks, right? So chopsticks right there. They're narrow, they're long, and they're taut. So I'm not letting it get soupy. And keeping really contained, connected. And I feel like as my extended, like loading leg lifting, my standing leg is almost pressing through. Again, my ribs are in, my hips are square. I want to think that I'm lifting from my upper glutes, so sometimes I just go around and give it a pat to make sure that the glute, that upper glute is really active. pressing down into your left foot. You press down, it's almost like, in order to keep the left kneecap rotating away from the big toe, but rather staying even through the center of the foot, press down and slightly, almost like you're going to, what's the word? Counterclockwise. Right? Like that lock and turn. Let's get 10 more. Right? I'm guesstimating. So it's a guesstimation that this is 60, but you know, generally speaking, it's never really on the mark, is it? Rarely can I say that I've done it to its exact number that I intended. So let's say it's 5 more. 5, 4, remember it's small movements. 3, 2, here, I'm going to rotate my hips. I pull in and press. I pull in. And I really want to keep my knee and my ankle all together, all in alignment. So I'm pulling my knee to the outside of my body, right? Rather than just bending it back. So we're at the halfway mark. And there's, right, it's quite an intense feeling. It's not easy, it's not meant to be easy. There we are. Press, press, press. Let's go 2 more. And last one. Press out. Close the hip. I'm going to take it out. Heel slightly in. And I'm lifting it. So, and if you can see on the side, I really want to keep the length of my torso the same, right? So I want to get that power punch of both your working, so I come down and I press, and I want to feel the top of that. My upper glutes are squeezing. Yeah, so let's do that 4 more times. And then we're going to take that, what's the word? Balance, favorable, one-legged, sit down, get up. Get 1 more. And then step it together. Shake out. Again, I'll be at my handy dandy ottoman. And so now I'm pressing into that, the foot that was lifted, right? The foot that was an extension is the one that's on the floor. And then I take my other leg, top it over, I come down, and squeeze. And down. And again, I want to, like I'm reaching through my head. So keep going. Thinking when you're going down, right? You're still reaching from the head. And if you get that sense of, I've had teachers come and put their hand on my head or even pull me from my ponytail. One's a little less aggressive than the other. But it helps because it really gives you the sensation of you're lifting. And it does actually create a muscular response. So do 1 more. Good. And then we're going to come down again. So we're coming down, and now opposite leg is crossed over. I'm just going to rock forward, and then pike up. Ripple forward, rock forward, reach through the heel, carve it around it. Rock forward, ripple forward, reach through the heel, round up. Right. So I'm getting a little bit of space, front body, back body, that connection. 1 more. And now I'm going to lift my leg as I come into my plank. Cross as I come back into down dog. Lift as I lower. Lower as I pike. And again, keep doing this. I'm just going to talk to you for a second. So don't take these movements as throwaway movements. Really make it nice and slow. So you're feeling that as your hips lower and your leg is lifting, you're feeling the work that you just did when you were lifting your leg as you were in that tabletop position, right? Lifting your back leg as you kept your body really tight and tall and reaching to the front of the room in that like warrior 3 position, yeah, or that needle point position of the body. So from here, we're gonna hold in that plank, pull my knee forward, reach my leg up. Nothing else moves, right? Nothing else changed. Reach it forward and reach it up. And we only do 5, right? It's nothing crazy. Reach up. Last 2. reach up. And last one, reach it up. Both feet down, press back downward facing dog. Again, you'll move your hips or shake it out. And then bend your knees. Press back into your child's pose. And so now we're gonna come up and do a little side body, abdominal into hip mobility. So this is where you will need your ball. Again, if you don't have a ball, you could use a weight, right? If you have a weight, you could use a blanket or a pillow. The ball is going to be necessary when we do, or the pillow will be necessary. You can't really use a weight. Actually, that's not true. I take it all back. You could squeeze your weight between your knees, but I just think it's unpleasant, and for me, it defeats the purpose of this. But so grab your ball or grab your pillow. We're going to come down, and I'm going to have my feet again. I'm going to start with my feet on the floor, and I'm not letting my back arch. Right, everything is connected. I'm going to reach. Pop the pillow or the blanket or the ball between the hands. Elbows are wide, so your shoulders are down. I take it over my chest, tuck the chin. I come up, open my knees, squeeze, and lower down. Reach back, squeeze the ball as I lift. Open, neutral, take it back, and then I squeeze the ball as I lift. Open. Squeeze it and release. And again, these aren't designed to be like, oh my God, that's the craziest exercise in the world. I can't believe I accomplished it. But it's meant to look like nothing but feel like something, right? So it should like be a little bit more hospitable to look at. Right? It's not like doing 700 burpees in the span of a minute. It is, I'm constantly feeling because my feet are pressing down. I'm squeezing through my ball. I make a control, open and release. Control, bring it back together. Let's do it 2 more times. And then we're going to begin on our one-sidedness. So we started with the one-sidedness through the posterior chain. We opened up a bit in our hydrants, right? In our donkey presses or kicks. Good. Open, close, and bring it back. So from here, set the ball or the pillow down. You can have it available to you. We'll start on our right leg. So our right knee's going to come in. The left leg's going to go long. Press the shin up into the hand so that my low belly is active. And then from here, I'm going to reach my leg and my arms. Pull in and lift. Reach. Pull in and lift. I'm trying to touch either outer malleolus, right? Outer, my ankle bones, my sticky outie ankle bones. Right? Let's go 2 more. One more. Lengthen. Pull it in. All right, now from here, I'm going to take my hands, I'm going to rock up. Keep my hands where they are and take it down. You don't have to come all the way down if it's too hard, right? Coming up is more what I'm looking for because I'm not trying to break that angle, right? Scoop, 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 scoop. And there's compression here, right? There's compression on that side. 2 more. Last one. Bring on down. Extend that leg. Reach your opposite, so in this case, my left hand to the inner right leg. I'm gonna reach. And now I'm gonna come twist and bring it up. And I pull and I twist. And I bring it up. Lower down, right? So try to pair the whole thing together. Twist. And if you notice, I give myself a little hold on to, just so I get a nice execution on that twist. And then I can relax. Let's go 3 more. Hold, open up into a twist. Last 2. 2, belly in. I'm reaching through my standing leg, or I'll say my passive, quote unquote passive left leg. Last one. And hold it here. And then from here, and take the foot, come down, bring my left leg a little bit more into center. If I feel like my hips got a little bit too rattled off, of course, and my pelvis feels too broad, I'm gonna bring it all in. Take my left elbow, wrap it in. Take my right hand, press down to lift up, drop the sits bones. 3 breaths. And feel the breath more than you're exhaling. So really allow the breath to get big with the inhale so that the focus is on stretching the soft tissue that promotes the inhalation phase of the breath, yeah? Good. And then we're gonna release. So from here, I have my right foot over my left. And you can see, so as a yoga teacher, I always like to use my body as an example of how inflexible we might be. But we're gonna hopefully, in about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, rectify this and have a little more of a happy and conceding right hip. So I'm gonna bring my knee in, hover, so I'm using my abs, bring it back, and bring the heel. I'm actually gonna have to help myself. Some people don't have to, but I will, just in order to get that clearance. I'm gonna be using my hand, right? But I really wanna use my core as much as possible, right? So here, I come up, I hover, bring it back, bring it in, and down. I give a little rock forward. So, I take it back. I start to take it back a little further, but I'm still using my core, I'm still using my glute, right? Because I prepped it for this moment. And boom, okay, it's getting a little better, right? A little better. So I rock, I want to reach, still keeping it lifted because I'm using my muscle, because I'm trying to prep the muscle around the joint, and down. Okay, here we go, let's go 4 more. Reach, nooks and crannies and pops. Ha ha ha, this is not so bad. 3 more. Reach, keep it lifted. Last 2. Reach. Oh, right, there's a bonus round. There's a bonus round. Here we go. We're gonna lift, hold, take your hands here. I'm gonna lift my heel and change myself around and bring it back. Back. So remember the muscles we were using when we were pulling our knee, right? From when we were just pulsing our leg up at the height of our head, neck, and shoulders. Same muscle, right? We're using these lateral rotators, but we're also pulling back. So we're using those same glute muscles, but in a different shape of gravity and different context. So let's say we go 4. Try to move my hand so you can see 3. Still trying to keep the whole lower leg even, so knee in line with heel. 2, 1, hold here. Now knee just lifts for 8, 7, hello, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Send it long. Rotate your hips down, right? It's not quite a pigeon because I'm on this hip, right? You see how close to my other hip that heel is? Normally in traditional pigeon, right, it's a 90-degree angle, and this is definitely not 90 degrees. But I like it because I enjoy the hip compression. I think it's a lot easier. 1 on the spine, 2 on the hips, 3 on the hip sockets, and then 4 and 5 on the knee and the ankle of that front hip. Right, and you can reach it back and forth. I'm choosing to pull that thigh into my hip. So I'm still actively retracting the thigh bone into the hip. One more breath. And then from here, I'm gonna roll over, right? And see what I've got out of my, well, this is better, right? Now, is this a yoga journal cover? You know, to extort and extol the many benefits of hip mobility? No, but for me, it's pretty good. And now you'll see I'm kind of spinning around. And what I'm doing is I'm reaching and taking these passive stretches out. Right, so I'm kind of stretching out of my tight hip. And I'm using my hand and putting leverage forward as I reach back. Right, and sometimes I do a wiggle. My teacher used to make fun of me. But I was like, I'm not an open person. Whatever tool I have available, I will absolutely use. So I find it helpful, and especially when I do deep tissue and sports massage, a little movement back and forth. It just kind of disrupts the holding of the muscles, right? So that they forget that they're holding on. They're like, what the hell is happening? Like, nothing, just be cool. Just a couple of breaths. I mean, I don't know about you, but this is like, for me, very monumental. If you remember what we were doing earlier. And then both hands down, and I'm gonna tilt my pelvis forward and arch my chest and back and head back. And what that's doing is it's pulling, I like to think of cotton candy, you know, like all the staticky, sugary confectionery that's been cleared of the metal drum. If that's just sticky connective tissue, right? I'm pulling all of that stagnant connective tissue confectionery out of my hip. And one breath. And let it go. Hey, all right, the hardest part of getting out of this pose is literally getting out of that pose. So now we're gonna switch it to the fresh other side. I'm gonna take my right leg down. Think about this for a second, right? And then reach my arms, inhale, exhale, and I wanna tap either ankle, pull back, inhale, and tap either ankle. So I have this channel for my friends and my students, so that we can be in the studio together. And if I'm not able to do Zoom for my students, I want them to have access to these things that we normally work on. But everyone was commenting about the fact that my feet were really dirty, and now I feel I'm not gonna lie and think that there's some insecurity. But we do happen to live on a street, and we have a long corridor that blocks all the dust, and dogs. So if I'm not on top of my mopping twice a week, which, and this is almost sadder to say, is I killed my mop. I was too aggressive, so I broke it. So anyway, here we are, so just in case that's what's going on. So now from here, I'm gonna hold on to my shin, and I'm going down and up. Give it a little squeeze. Coming down and hollowing up. And my right leg it's like an antenna. It's trying to help reach, but it doesn't mean that I want to feel that my right and left hip are still, that I'm not in a torqued position, which can be easy to do because as this left knee is coming in, that means that left hip is trying to hike up. So I really want to, as best I can, keep it clear, right? So keep both sits bones in the same plane as I move. Let's do 2 more. Okay. Last one. And here we go. So now, right, the leg's gonna go long, and we're gonna add that twist. So inhale, and twist, and bring it around. And you'll notice I'm not using my hand until I can go into that twist position. I'll show this way, right? So I want to use my core. I'm going to use my core, and then let's go one more. Right. And twist the whole. Right, and reach. Chest is lifted. Breathe. Take that foot down. Here, I like to just kind of minimize the space. Elbow, doesn't matter if you've got restrictions in terms of maybe you've got more weight or girth, maybe you have smaller limbs, maybe really long limbs, right? Depending what it is, just know that my stance isn't going to be your stance, and that's all good. So again, I'm breathing in, shoulders are down, collarbones are open. And I want to breathe in more deeply, or I'll say I'll pay attention to that, like that's the accent, yeah? Is on the breath in, stack yourself. Pull the breath into the back of your ribs, right? Good. And then here we go. We're gonna bring it into our hip opening / abdominal. Oh, this one's almost less promising than the other one. So just, and again, you know, it's notice what you notice, but don't judge it. So here I am, I'm noticing my tight hips, and I'm not in a place of judgment. And I'm going to take it, let me get my arm out of the way, I might need a lot of space. Okay, I'm gonna bring it back. I'm gonna hover, so I'm using my obliques. I'm using my glutes a little bit, right? And then bring it back. And because it's hard for me to get that clearance, I have to hook, but I do want to get that full end range of motion here. And then no hands, right? I come back, and I'm pressing my heel back, so I'm getting my glutes, I'm getting my obliques. I bring it, cross it, and then eventually, right, it starts to kind of assuage itself into mobility. I'm holding. I use the muscle, and then because I use the muscle, the joint has more availability, right? So it's like I'm not working with strenuous movement. I'm working with muscle memory, protect the joint, and now, because I'm releasing that muscle, there's more of an availability for it to concede, right? For it to, I won't say the word concede, but for it to trust me. I'm gonna open it with care. We got one more, and then we're gonna hold it back. So here we are, we're holding it back. Take my hands forward, and here, take it back. And I keep my hip stable, and I'm just letting that thigh go into extension, right? So thigh extending at the hip. It opens up the front of my quadricep, opens up the front of my hip flexors. So I'm feeling a lot of work through my glute, through my core. 2 more, and then we're gonna lift that knee. Here we go, and then I go for 8, 7, 6, try to keep the heels slightly where it is. 5, 4, 3, 2, just so you can see. 1, slide it back. Rotate the entire leg with the hip again. Right heel's by the front of my hip. And I come down. So I still want to traction the back thigh into my hip so that my pelvis isn't, so I'll show you actually, you guys stay there. Stay where you are. I know if this will make a difference, if you can. I'll do it with the other leg just so you can see. Hi, Steve. Right, so I don't want to have, where's my butt? There you go. I don't want to have one sits bone here and one up here. I want to make it neutral so that both sits bones are in the same plane. So this leg has to pull here, and that hip, this hip has to pull back. And then I end up getting that nice evenness across my torso. Okay, so take another breath wherever you are. Rock back down onto your hip. Roll up. Bring it around. Let's see what is the efficacy of my hard work and labor. Okay, so I'm here, and then I'm just gonna take some stretches. And again, so worked at this one yoga studio, and one of my colleagues, she could never feel anything in my classes because she's just extraordinarily mobile and bendy, you know? And in her classes, I couldn't do anything. Like, I needed every single prop that wasn't bolted down to the floor, and even then, sometimes I needed more. Right, so just notice that our bodies are so different, and our experience so unique. Press your hands down, tilt your pelvis forward, and then lift your chest, take your head back, big breath in. Good. And then release. So let's start to wind this bad boy down. So here's where I'm gonna say, it helps if you have your weights, but you don't have to have them. And if you want the ball in beneath, now remember when you squeeze the ball, try to rotate your thighs down towards the floor, so the ball would be going down, your feet are heavy. And I'm gonna take my weights, I'm gonna set myself up so you guys can see. And again, you can have wine bottles. It's really not about having, whether it's 5 pounds or 1 pound, it's just about having something that's a little heavier than what your body's used to, right? Just then playing mind games. So my weights are here, my feet are pressing down. I have my ball squeezing. Let me back up so you can see. There you go. My ball is squeezing. I'm gonna open my arms out like a V, and then press them down so now my weights are perpendicular, right? Dumbbell down, dumbbell up. And then I come up. So it's like I'm making a like a half circle, right? Squeeze your shoulders. And what I want to feel is when I'm right around here and I'm moving in, where do I feel that? Right? Chest stays open, collarbones are spread, head is gently pressing down, and it's almost like you're just slightly tilting the nose up just enough that you can feel that the neck is free. Like if I tuck my chin, I'm flattening my cervical spine, that puts tension, like it doesn't feel good. So I just want to nod my nose just slightly up. So when I move, the rest of the body's pieces fall into place. Let's do 2 more. Slow, slow, slow. So you need to feel, right? How are the backs of the legs and the glutes responding? Last one. And now you can take your weights on top of your hips. You can remove them. I'm going to release my gluteal flesh down and up, down and up. And so for me, I always notice that my right foot feels a little more connected to the floor than my left. You know, I'm just moving my weights out of the way because I'm going to give you guys a little conversation since you're just on the back, moving up and down anyway. So if you take a moment and you feel that, like, close your eyes if that works for you. And as you're moving up and down, just feel, what's the footprint like? Like if you can imagine and envision what it would look like if your foot was stepped on ink, right? And then walked across a white floor, right? What would it look like? Where are the darker impressions? And does it feel like both feet are even? And if the answer is no, then that's something to go with, right? There's information there. You don't have to try and fix it. It just means that there's something there to offer you, insight. So take that a couple more times, right? Maybe you're feeling into if one glute or the back of the thigh feels more responsive than its friend, right? Than the right or left side, depending. Right? Maybe even one shoulder, maybe it feels like one hip is dropped a little bit. And then release that. Take your knees side to side. Remove your ball for a second. Actually, let's remove our ball, period. And so here's where I really wanted to go into today. So we started with a lot of groundwork, some muscular groundwork. Then we moved into mobility, and now we're coming back into grounding the pelvis. So press your feet down to the floor. Again, just try to think that the inner thighs, the back of the hamstrings, and here comes the fire. And I'll give a pause for the sirens because why bother arguing on top of them? That's kind of like a sneeze that never happened. Okay, so here we go. So press your feet straight down, right? Think of the trajectory of the thighs. Inner thighs are slightly moving forward, the outer thighs pull back. And then you're not squeezing your butt so much that the thighs are rotating away from one another, right? Instead, you're using the hamstrings. Remember how we were using our leg at the first exercise when we were standing up, yeah? So your feet are pressing down, hold here. And now take your hands to the top of your hip points, right? So feel for your hip points. Now sink the weight into your right foot without changing anything. Lift your left leg to table. I'm going to tap my toe down and up. And now remember how we were sitting down with our foot crossed over and resting on top of our standing foot? This becomes what's the word? It's like a throwback to that. So 2 more. Nice and slow. Try and keep the hips quite level. Good. Got 1 more. Lower, return that leg, pause. Slowly lift the leg that you were just holding onto the floor. Same thing, hip points don't move. And because the hips are the body's so complex, right? So what we worked today is we worked our abdominals, we worked through our hips, right? Our pelvis, as it refers to our lateral rotators, opening the hip, the backs of the legs and the glutes, keeping the hips closed, or I'll say square, but moving through extension. And back into side body, getting into our obliques, because it's all this like very impressive, organized chaos. Let's go 1 more. Good. Lower the heels 5 times. Lower your hips and lift. You can take your arms up or take them out if that feels nice. Sometimes I like just to have my arms in a different position because it opens something else up. And again, every degree of movement you make in a bone you're gonna see that, you're gonna see that come to fruition, right, or manifest itself through the muscle or the soft tissues response. So last one. Good. Take your feet, walk them out away from one another, and drop the knees. Right, internal and external rotation. One more. Good. And then if you want to take the happy baby, right? So you drop your. So this I see a lot. It's like people tuck their tail. So if you hold onto your shins, if it feels better, but release your sits bones down, right? So you're not here, you're releasing them down, and then plug your arms in. And just like our squat, so stay with that. Remember how I said in our squat, keep your trunk really long, right? This is the same thing, only we're on a very different side of gravity than we were doing our wide squats. One more breath. Pull the breath all the way down from the back of the lungs, all the way down to the back of the sacrum, or the back of the pelvis. Hug the knees in, and then we're going to take it up just a couple times, right? Just a few times. And release. And then from there, so nice and tall, give yourself a big high five for doing class. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon.